Hey, what's going on? Thanks for joining me, Missy Bumbles, to talk about a specific prohibited medicine, cannabis. If you are under 21, unfortunately, you need to go on get. This content is not for you, deemed by YouTube. I would love to share this information with you, but YouTube says no. So, go on get, over 21, come hang out with me, my peeps, and let's get to it. So, today we're going to talk about the misconceptions and fallacies associated with cannabis, specifically its users, stoners, if you will. Not all people that use are bad. I'm sure you could agree. Just like, many different groups and clusters of people of different races, religions, all over the world. I'm not here to discriminate, but there's bad apples in every group. Again, I'm sure you can agree. And just like cannabis, there are some users that are, they're just really bad apples that fell way, 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 way down from the tree. What I'm here to talk about is that it's not a hard drug. When I think of hard drugs, I think of heroin, crack, and cocaine, which are the same thing. If you didn't already know that. A lot of people don't. They think they're two separate drugs, but no, crack and cocaine are most certainly the same drug. So crack cocaine, heroin, opiates, prescription, and man-made otherwise, those are hard drugs. One reason off the top of my head would be because you could overdose from those relatively easily. Off of any of those that I just mentioned, it would take a redonkulous amount of marijuana to overdose. And I think it was on, I don't remember what show it was on, but like you would have to consume like a ridiculous amount of like grams of concentrate, and it was like, I'm gonna say it was like pounds of flour in a day. But you wouldn't even make it that far. Like, I mean, that would be incredibly hard to do for the most seasoned of smokers. Or even consuming edibles. I feel like you would definitely pass out before you could even ingest that much cannabis. If you don't believe me, I'm pretty sure there's been 0 deaths caused by marijuana use. Now, I'm sure many people have died that had marijuana in their system, but that doesn't mean that's why they died, because again, it takes so much marijuana consumption to overdose. But we need to break the stigma surrounding cannabis users. They're not all stupid, dumb, lazy stoners. A lot of people that consume cannabis are high-functioning members of society with college degrees. Back to the hard drug for a second. You see people strung out on those drugs. You don't see people strung out on the cannabis, marijuana. You see them, they tear up the junk food drawer, drink all your soda, chocolate milk, ice cream's probably gone, but you're never gonna see somebody strung out on marijuana. It's not a thing. Illegal equals attractive, forbidden fruit, if you will. So let's educate. My last video, I was fully delving into educating our youth, so we can arm them with the knowledge to make their own informed decisions when and if they ever do choose to consume. But there's a lot of education that still needs to be done amongst adults, whether those that consume or whether they don't consume. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I'm here to help set that record straight. And a good topic or worth mentioning for the sake of this video is cannabis is not synonymous or equal to human flaw. Like, if you're already a crappy person to begin with, and then you use cannabis, the cannabis didn't do that to you. You were already a dirtbag to begin with. Blaming how someone is because of cannabis is just as silly and stupid, nay, ignorant, as blaming milk or the temperature outside. Hell, people don't even blame caregivers and parents anymore, which, I'm sorry, it all starts in the house that you are raised and brought up in. Education, education, information, let's get it. Another misconception is that cannabis is a gateway drug. Well, I can see how that has been true if you go back and look at the data of people that evolved into doing other drugs or just other heinous activities in general. Sure, maybe they started smoking pot at one point in time, but I don't think that is true in its entirety. I think that it is a gateway drug for many, many, many different reasons. I think primarily, let's think of jobs in the workplace. There are still a lot of jobs that drug test for marijuana or marijuana, but they still test for cannabis, and we all know that stuff stays in your system for 30 plus days, more if you're heavier set. And you know, you could have smoked one joint 2 weeks ago and you're gonna fail that drug test. And that's bullshit, because you can go do a line of some booger sugar and then pass your drug test in 72 hours. So I think it's a gateway drug to other drugs in the sense, well, at least as far as that aspect is concerned, because it doesn't stay in your system and in your urine. Those other drugs don't stay in your system as long. Like all of them, heroin, crack, cocaine, prescription pills, opiates. 72 hours. That's it. So, of course that makes those drugs more attractive, because you can pass a piss test in 72 hours after doing those drugs. Marijuana, you're waiting a month. Maybe more if you're heavier set, such as your girl. But again, I think this is one of those things that correlation does not equal causation. Let's take a step back. Some individuals are predisposed or forced to try other drugs. I'm still on the topic of cannabis as the gateway drug. And when I say forced, I mean such as the job restraint or passing the drug test to get said job, as well as maybe you already got in trouble with the law. You can't medicate with cannabis like you want to, so you resort to that other stuff to get high. That's what I mean by force, because they know they can't smoke pot or cannabis because it's going to be in their system for 30 plus days, and who knows when they're going to get popped with a random from their PO. Another reason one would be forced to maybe use something else other than cannabis because maybe they can't find it. Again, I don't condone the use if you're under 21 years old, but even to hit dispos now in many of the states where they are legal and you can get medical act, you have to be 21 to get it. So I don't condone the use if you're under 21, but those that do, I mean, they're buying it off the street, and Lord knows like how that product was grown, the environment, the conditions. We're not even gonna get into all that. It makes me cringe when I think about all the marijuana I've smoked over the years, especially now that I grow. And I just cringe thinking about what I possibly have smoked at some point in my life. Anyways, but to go back, those same people that maybe can't find a local connection for cannabis, or maybe they don't have access to a dispensary. Like, let's talk legit 21 and older. Like, maybe they don't have access to a dispensary. So then maybe, this is just a scenario here, that they have to go befriend some shady individual so they can get a little bit of bud, a little bit of herb to smoke on. And then that's not healthy because now you're in a toxic relationship with this person, this shady individual. And I'm not saying all people are shady. This is just one scenario. I would argue that nicotine, cigarettes, is a gateway drug because me personally, and most people I know that still consume cannabis, like they smoked cigarettes before they ever started smoking cannabis. And we do know that nicotine is a drug. We do know that it is very addictive and that it causes so many physiological changes within our bodies when consumed, and especially consumed over a long period of time. So we actually could reasonably argue that nicotine is a gateway drug, not cannabis. Just my 2 cents. Don't come at me. And then we've all heard of the doctors and lawyers, famous people who have consumed cannabis at some point in their life, either when they were young, before they were in the current career, or while they're in their current career. This is not a celebrity gossip episode, but either way, because they will admit that they did use cannabis at one point in time in their life. So regardless of whether they used it just one time or many times in their past, or even if they still continue to use it to today, one could argue that cannabis is a gateway drug to prosperity, to success. It's not, unreasonable. The fact that it's still known as a gateway drug is a well-known misconception, though very well perpetuated. On to number 2. Stoners are lazy. Again, not true. There's very, very, very productive members of society who raise families, who work 40-hour jobs, who pay their bills, who sell their home in Virginia, move all the way to Ohio, buy a house better than what they had, bigger than what they had in the suburbs. Stoners don't need shit. And for example, a lot of people smoke for anxiety or depression to lift that fog, to give them energy. The exact opposite of lazy. Who knew? Why? Because the medicine works. And then earlier I mentioned correlation does not equal causation. And if you were a bum before, you're a bum now. Like regardless whether you smoke or consume cannabis, same thing. If you're lazy, if you were lazy before you smoked cannabis, yeah, you're gonna be lazy. Well, and then that could be argued depending on the type of cannabis consumed, because there are types that put you into couch. Cannabis can actually spark creativity. There are so many artists, musicians, painters, dancers, writers that consume cannabis, and you wouldn't even know that they consumed cannabis. I mean, I'm not going to drop the name game on who does, but you would maybe be surprised with me. Probably not if you do consume, such as myself, because yeah, there's sometimes when I get duper creative. Still in line with the lazy attitude. Different types are to be used at different times of day, as I briefly mentioned before. You have your sativas, indicas. They're mostly all hybrids these days, but nonetheless, there are some that are more sativa dominant or indica dominant, and of course, they do produce different effects, and you need to know how those work within your body, because you don't want to use the one that makes you sleepy when you're at work, and you would not want to use the one that you want to stay upbeat for work, the sativa dominant, at night when you're trying to go to bed. It's kind of like drinking coffee before bed. Just not a good idea. And then just very quickly, this last topic that I wanted to discuss was driving. Me personally, I do consume cannabis and then I drive. I do not consume while I drive, because both hands should be on the wheel, safe driving, yada yada yada. But I also have been smoking for several years and have quite a tolerance built up. I don't really get high per se. I just use it to get the desired effects medicinally. Just like alcohol, again, this will be probably another one of the very few times that I will openly admit that alcohol and cannabis are on the same page as far as they shouldn't be done drinking while driving, even though drinking and driving on each one of those separately are not the same. There needs to be more studies on this so we can educate you. And I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for hanging out with me and spending time. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified when I drop more videos, because I will be dropping more and talking to you real soon. Have a great day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Be easy. One love.